Touchline here on Y254. We're still giving you the best of what has been happening in the world of sports in the whole week. In the sports pages, I had to give you some of the things that were happening there. And now I've got two gentlemen here in studio to talk about everything that happened in the midweek, considering we had a lot when it came to the Champions League and the Europa League. Some of the best draws of the matches actually are now in the Europa League, and people are anticipating and waiting for them as they come in. Joining me here in studio for this segment, I've got Sammy Gitai, who is back here in studio with us. Sammy, how are you doing? I didn't know you were a Real Madrid fan, but
Yeah. It's been a good week anyway because Real Madrid won against Atalanta, even though they were down to 10 men. We are happy, so good week and we go forward.
I just learned something this morning from my director actually. He was telling me that Eden Hazard, since he moved to Real Madrid, he has played less matches than the days he has been on injured.
And actually another weird stat is that Giroud has scored more goals in the Champions League more than what Eden Hazard has scored so far for 2 years at Real Madrid.
Oh, big one there. Sammy Gitai here for the touchline on Y254, and also Eric Aganya, also an ardent football analyst, is also in studio with us today. Eric, how's your week been?
My week has been good.
Yeah.
Everything okay. Real Madrid didn't win. They got lucky.
They had a lucky day. Yes.
They got lucky. I don't think they'll go far.
What was your highlight of the week when it comes to sports?
My highlight of the week actually was maybe Atletico winning against Chelsea.
Yes.
Chelsea winning against Atletico, and Giroud's goal. Beautiful goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to talk about that Chelsea are in the Champions League, and they have got a very experienced manager when it comes to the Champions League, Thomas Tuchel there, and the way he's leading them. He has got a good start with Chelsea so far.
So far, he's won, I think, 8. He's played 8. He hasn't lost any. The worst result he's gotten is a draw against, I think, Southampton and Wolves. He's won 6. So far, that's the best start he could have wished for.
Yes.
But if you look at the Chelsea squad, it's the most talented assembled squad you can ever expect in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with Lampard that the squad was not clicking. And if Tuchel can get them playing, can get the best out of Timo Werner, can get the best out of Kai Havertz, he still has Ziyech, I think they'll be unstoppable.
And that win against Atletico must have been a very good start for him to measure his team against a big boy like Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I actually felt that this was the real test now he was getting, because you look at the games he played in the Premier League, they weren't that big sides playing the Burnleys, the Sheffield United. Yes. I guess playing against Atletico Madrid was going to be one of those matches where you look at his tactics and you try and figure out what it's all about. But at the same time, I think Atletico Madrid actually didn't play how we expected them to be for a team that is on top of the La Liga. Playing 6 men behind, I didn't think that was the right approach that maybe Diego Simeone would have gone in that match. But again, I think, I'm just going to throw it out there, I think there is not much difference between Frank Lampard and Thomas Tuchel right now. I guess the only thing you could say is that they have got more organization, to be honest with you.
Does respect come in for a manager? Because when you look at Frank Lampard coming on to Chelsea, people will be like, he's just a retired player, was with the Derby County as a manager, but not that long. And he comes to a team like Chelsea with big egos.
Yeah, I think the difference, as he says, there's no difference. I'll disagree. The big difference between the two managers is that Tuchel is not afraid of making the big calls.
Yes.
For example, you remember he put in a player 30 minutes down the line, the player didn't perform, removed him immediately. Frank Lampard could not have made that decision.
Yes.
It needs you to be a manager who can stamp authority. I think what Tuchel was doing, he was stamping authority on the squad and making the squad realize that I am the most important person here. I will make the calls, and if I put you out there and you don't perform, I will get somebody else who will do your job.
Yes.
Because he has very many players. So you'll not go in, you don't perform, and you expect to stay in.
Yes.
And that's the biggest difference between these two managers. Another difference between the two managers, if you look at the system of play, right now Chelsea is possessing a lot. If you look at most of the games, if not the games, all the games they have played, I think they've had the majority of possession. But now the problem is now precision. You're possessing. What are you doing with that ball? If you look at the game against Atletico, as much as they possessed, as much as Atletico sat back, they didn't create more chances. And that's what Tuchel needs to work on, creating more chances in the final third. And if he's able to do that, then he will be unstoppable.
Well, it is a team that is actually playing very well so far. And you brought in Olivier Giroud. Many managers don't usually use him that much, but I think Didier Deschamps during the World Cup, he had one phrase there where he said that a striker's job is not only to score goal, but his movement in the box matter a lot. And in that World Cup, he did not score a lot of goals, but they ended up winning the title. And for Chelsea, he's turning out to be a very key player, even when he comes on from the bench.
Yeah, and he did even mention it after the game. He talked about Olivier Giroud training like a 20-year-old guy when they're training at Cobham, and I believe he's a very good player. Actually, if you could ask a question where he's a legend most, maybe at Chelsea or Arsenal, I think they'll say that he's a legend at Chelsea. And I actually credit him for going for that shot, because any player maybe would have thought I'm offside and I shouldn't take that shot, but he has always got that kind of static nature in him that could actually bring in such goals. And it's not the first goal that you've seen him come with such spectacular manner. We saw him score a scorpion kick at Arsenal, and now scoring this kind of a goal against Atletico Madrid is a big plus for him, and maybe he might actually be selected for tomorrow's game. You never know.
You never know. Yeah. The first half is done. 90 is done. We're waiting for the second half. Do you think Atletico will be bringing the game to Chelsea now?
Oh yes, they have no other choice. You remember the first game, I think tactically Diego Simeone got it wrong. He sat back. And then when he conceded, in the 70th minute is when he started attacking. He's going to come after Chelsea. And you remember he's done it against Liverpool at one given time. So he's not a manager who is not afraid of making such kind of calls. He's going to bring the game to Chelsea. And we cannot sit here and say that Chelsea have sailed through. Oh no. Not yet.
It is going to be a tough one. One match that actually brought people into the edge of their seats there, Atletico Madrid losing by 1 goal at Wanda Metropolitano. Chelsea there, Olivier Giroud scoring that goal. In this Champions League, we have got to look at another match that was also key in this one. We've got Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany, Man City going on to win by 2-0. And one thing that came out of that game is that Manchester City is confident this time around in the Champions League.
Oh yeah, they are confident, and what is bringing confidence in Manchester City is the capability of Pep Guardiola being able to fix his defense.
Yes.
You remember since time immemorial, he's been scoring, but he concedes. Nowadays, if you look at them, since the introduction of Ruben Diaz came in and brought stability to the defense. And the partnership of Ruben Diaz together with John Stones has really fixed Man City's defense. Now, they have no problem going forward. And then they have John Stones, who has the capability, even Ruben Diaz, who has the capability of moving the ball from the defense to the midfield. And then the rise of Gundogan. Because you remember they had a problem replacing Silva, who went back to Spain. But now Gundogan came in and stepped up. And that has brought problems.
Even people forgot of Kevin De Bruyne.
Exactly, and Aguero. People are not talking about Aguero. People are not talking about De Bruyne, who's been out for quite some time, because the other players rose up to the challenge. And I remember I listened to Pep the other day. I was being asked about the secret to the success, and he said he's been lucky to have some finances to buy incredible players. If you look at that, you'll see that he has Mahrez on the bench. He has Sterling, who can start as a false number 9. You see that throws the opponent off. And the confidence in the team is so high because they've been able to win 19 straight wins. And I am sure tomorrow's game, maybe against West Ham, today's game against West Ham is still tricky, but the confidence is high. because the players now believe in themselves.
One thing you've got to talk about, Sammy, has got now to be the squad depth, and then the capability that he has to rotate the players without even knowing who is the first 11 and who is not going to be in the first 11. Yet when they come onto the field of play, they perform still at the highest level.
Yeah, it's a very good thing to have, especially for a top manager like him. And actually, you look at how they've been able to dispatch teams so far. They've not been playing their best kind of football, but they've just been getting like a goal or two, and then they just finish off the game in second gear. They're actually in that game against Borussia Mönchengladbach, they didn't have to get in the second gear. They just played their game, strolled the park, and they won their game. And another man maybe many people are not talking about is Joe Cancelo.
Yes.
He had a wonderful performance in that game. And to even think that he was playing on the left side and still provided an assist with his right foot, it's so incredible. And also, you talk about Manchester City not having a defined striker in there, because it's either you're playing a false nine or they're playing Gabriel Jesus, who we think is not a real number 9. And you look at their last 2 goals that they've scored. Against Arsenal, they scored with a diminutive player scoring a header, Sterling.
Yes.
And then against Borussia Mönchengladbach, we had Bernardo Silva coming up with a header. So I think Pep Guardiola is somehow bringing in some revolution into the game, that it's not all about outscoring the opponents, but scoring your own and defending.
When you look at the teams that are now remaining in the last 16 of the Champions League so far, you see Juventus losing, you see Real Madrid struggling to win, and then you see Manchester City confidently winning away, and then people are like, I think this Man City team can go all the way, but Pep does not want to put it out there. But when you see that team playing, you feel like it can go all the way.
It can go all the way. The problem is that there are other quality teams who are still there. There's PSG, who are also there. There's Bayern Munich, that's also a team to look out for, because we know Bayern and their efficiency. They're very efficient. They may not possess, they may not do that, but when they get the ball, the objective is to put it in the net. So it will depend on their opponent in the quarterfinals and in the semifinals. Because if they're given PSG earlier, they're given Bayern earlier, tricky.
Tricky. I actually agree with him, because it's all about the draw you get in there. And you look
in
at
the quarterfinal stage now.
Now going forward, the kind of draws they're going to get is going to be very vital to where they're going to reach. But you have to credit them, because I think this is the best Manchester City side you've seen so far. But the season they had over 100 points. I think this is the best squad that Pep Guardiola is having right now. And looking at the power rankings, they actually ranked second, favourites to win the UEFA Champions League, just a little bit behind Bayern Munich.
And that Bayern Munich won 4-1 against Lazio. So it is a probability of Bayern Munich retaining their trophy of fighting out with Man City in the final.
And for Bayern Munich, I mean, no one expected them to beat Lazio the way they did, because they had struggled after coming in from the Club World Championships. They came back, drew with Arminia Bielefeld, and then last weekend they lost to Frankfurt, surprisingly. Coming into this game against Lazio, I always felt like maybe Lazio will come up with a big result, but they actually had a very poor performance because they gave away the ball so much. And for Bayern Munich this season, you feel like it's not going to be a Bayern Munich game without the opponent scoring, and that's the issue that they have with their defense, that they're conceding a lot of goals, and that might be their undoing this season.
Wow, but for Bayern Munich also, now we have got to come into a conversation of players now out of their prime time. It's time for them to let the young Turks take over. There's conversations of Alaba not going to sign a contract. Thomas Müller also getting on to his peak of his playing career, and Lewandowski also. Could they have the
they have 2 challenges. One, they have an aging squad, and they're bringing in some young fellas who are coming in to take over. So that balance. And then another thing, they have players who have achieved everything. And the hunger is gone. And they want new challenges. That's all. You find that players like Alaba wants a new challenge. He's won the Club World Cup. He's won the Champions League. He's won their league, their domestic titles. So he wants a new challenge. You see, that's the problem that they have. But I like the shrewdness of the management of Bayern Munich. They've already captured Upamecano, who is coming in.
Surprising.
Surprising. Nobody expected. They work under under the water.
That was a
And,
chess move.
Yes. And if you look at their history, they do their signings even before the season ends.
Yes.
They captured Lewandowski earlier on,
Yeah.
before even the season ended. So they conclude their season, their business, so that by the time they're going for pre-season, the players are coming in to join, and they start a new season with all the players that they want. That shrewdness has made them now being able to dominate the top flight in football.
And then that kid from Man City who went, Leroy Sané, he's actually come back and is really hot at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, and I watched him against Frankfurt last Saturday. There was a time he was on that right wing and I actually sat down 3 defenders before connecting the ball for a goal. And even in this game against Lazio, he actually scored a goal. But then talking about those young talents that are coming through, I guess the talk of the town was that young lad Jamal Musiala, who actually scored against Lazio, and he actually decided to play for the German national team ahead of the England national team. It's going to be a good squad because you still have the likes of Kingsley Coman coming through. You have Joshua Zirkzee, who is on loan at Parma, and then there's been talk now about bringing in another right back, Max Aarons from Norwich. It's going to be a good one, and I think there's still going to be a big force to reckon with.
Yes, and then there was a big conversation that was happening online when Thomas Muller said that he doesn't care about the other leagues. He only cares about the German league. That's why they are the best in the world. And all those players have got to move back to Germany. It is the touchline here on Y254. I'm Robert Osoro. At Mirumbi Osoro on Twitter is where you can find me. I've got Eric Aganya here in studio with me and Sami Gitai, and still we are dissecting everything that happened in the Champions League this week, with some of the major scores coming in from the other week. Barcelona losing by 4-1 to Paris Saint-Germain, and then Liverpool had a wake-up call there, defeating RB Leipzig by 2-0. And then we had Porto winning 2-1 against the old Red of Turin. But we have got one that we have got to discuss and actually understand what is the problem with the Galacticos, the Real Madrid. If we were just to ask you, not even the results with the Real Madrid and Atalanta, that they went won by 1-0, but it has been a season where Real Madrid has been really shaky.
They've been shaky because if you look at the history of Real Madrid, they don't bring in young talents from the academy. They bring in big names. They didn't sign any. And the last big name that they tried to sign hasn't done much, and that is Eden Hazard. Eden Hazard hasn't done much. And you see, that's a problem. And last season, they didn't bring in a big name.
Yes.
Because they are used to bringing in the Galacticos. They are not a team that brings in very exciting talents from the academy.
Yes.
I think the last ones we saw were the likes of Kinaguti, who came in, and from there they've not brought in quite a number of them, and that's a problem.
Yes.
The effects of Corona and finances being a problem, so they didn't refresh their squad. They also have an aging squad. Also. They have Ramos, they have Modric. They've been depending on them. They are aging. That's a problem for Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah. And how is he going to change that midfield, considering that he's now been selling some of his midfield prospects? I think Ceballos went to Arsenal. We saw Odegaard also was on loan to Real Sociedad, now is with Arsenal. And the midfield working at the moment is Casemiro, Kroos, and Modric.
Okay, I agree with him what he's saying about Real Madrid not having spent in the last few windows. But to be honest with you, they have actually not spent because they are in a bit of a crisis, just as Barcelona is. And they have not spent in the last 3 transfer windows. So I'm looking at a situation whereby there's been talks about them bringing in Kylian Mbappe and David Alaba too. So maybe that will be the big move that they were actually waiting for. But Zinedine Zidane has not had his very good periods by bringing in these young players into the team. As you've talked about, the likes of Martin Odegaard who left, and Ceballos, the other guys who've left. I guess right now he's now coming back and realizing that you actually need them, because the team there has got lots of injuries. You're looking at almost 9 first-team players who missed in that game in the Champions League against Atalanta. So going forward, I believe Zinedine Zidane will start throwing these young boys into the action, as we saw with Hugo Duro playing in that game. Ari Bas was also called in that game together with Nacho at the center of the midfield. So maybe these guys are going to come in through. So Real Madrid, looking at their run, they have not lost in 7 games actually, and they are only 3 points away from Atletico Madrid, who many people already say that they have already won the league.
Yes.
So looking at the run they are on, they are winning by a goal to nil, 2-0, and it's actually very good for them. And when Real Madrid is on that run, you just can't take it away from them, and you're going to see what they're going to do in the next few matches.
They're just surviving.
Yeah, but they did that to the end of last season and won the title.
And then there's the talk of the derby, the Madrid derby.
Yeah.
It's also going to come up. We'll be talking about that one a little bit later on in the program. So that is how the Champions League first leg of the last 16 actually played out last week. We had there Barcelona losing by 4-1 against Paris Saint-Germain. Pochettino seems to have started very well down in France.
I wouldn't say he has started really well because he has a big and exciting squad, because he's blowing hot and cold, because you remember he beat Barcelona 4-1. When he went back home, he was beaten.
Yes.
So he's blowing hot and cold. But he beat Barcelona 4-1 because not that PSG were really that good, but Barcelona were awful on that particular day. And Barcelona, we discussed it in the program earlier on when the season was starting, and we said that this season they will be in trouble. There will be more beating for Barcelona because of their off-field problems with the management and the hierarchy.
Yes.
And the player power. The player power will really affect them.
Yeah.
Because you see that they have not done a good job in recruitment, and they've lost influential players like Luis Suarez without actually replacing them with another influential player.
Yes.
And you see that's a problem. And look at their defense. Look at their defense. They're struggling with pace. You saw the goal against Mbappe. Mbappe outran Piqué.
Yes.
Piqué had just come from injury. You don't throw him into such a game with such a 22-year-old and a 34-year-old. Seriously.
The strength will never be the same.
Yeah, Koeman was set up to fail. And I saw him the second time in the press conference. He was nosebleeding.
Yeah.
The pressure is so much. And he's in trouble.
Serious trouble.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we finish the Champions League, but then we go ahead and talk about the Europa League. And that's where also we've got some exciting matches that will be coming up in the Europa League.
Yeah, I watched the draw yesterday, and to even think that Manchester United are playing AC Milan in the Europa League, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer described it because I against a tough match. But you look at the other teams that are actually in the UEFA Champions, in the Europa League right now. You still have Villarreal in there. You have AS Roma. You've got the 2 England teams, Arsenal and Spurs, who are looking really good. Yeah. And at the same time, you've got some exciting teams like Molde, Slavia Praha, who are really exciting against Leicester City. It's going to be exciting going forward.
But the match everyone is talking about, is talking about that in the road to one of the things now I failed, then you have got to help me. Has got to be road to
Gdansk, yeah.
Gdansk.
In Poland, yes.
In Poland.
Poland.
Yeah.
Road to Gdansk, that one there. But the match there that has got people talking has got to be Manchester United versus AC Milan.
Yeah, Manchester United versus AC Milan is a big game. And I don't know why people are surprised, because for you to be a champion, you must beat some of the best teams. And if you look at the Europa League, as he said, we have exciting teams. You have Shakhtar Donetsk, which is still in there. We have Olympiacos, we have Arsenal, we have Spurs. So you see, you have to beat them for you to get to that final.
Yeah.
And this game is going to be exciting because AC Milan are doing relatively well. They're trying to come up. And I just can't imagine now Maguire versus Zlatan. Maguire versus Zlatan. It will be tough. And it's now an opportunity for Manchester United and Ole Gunnar to show what they're made of. Because if they want to win this thing, they have to be some of the big teams.
And that is what Solskjaer talked about in the press conference. He actually said that those are the games we want. Those are the games we need to play. This will be a real test for them.
Yeah, it's going to be a real test because, as he mentioned again, AC Milan have been looking good in the Serie A. They're only second. Yes, they've lost their steam in the last few matches, but I still believe they've got lots of good guys in that team. Yeah. You talk about Ibrahimovic, of course. They are calling it the Zlatan Derby because he'll be back at Old Trafford playing that game. And again, you've got some really exciting names like the likes of Tomori, Rafael Leao, who is now actually growing under the wing of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and looking like a really good player. I guess they've missed Ismail Benacer in the last few matches because they actually sneaked in through the round of 16 because they drew with Red Star Belgrade in both matches. And to even think that Red Star Belgrade were down to 10 men in both legs, it's actually very many question marks to Stefano Pioli, who's done an incredible job at AC Milan.
Yeah. Is there a season also where you expect Manchester United to go all the way to the semis, even to the final, when you look at their squad depth and how they've been playing even the Premier League?
Yeah, they have the squad to win it. My problem with Manchester United is team selection.
Yes.
And rotation when it comes to the part of Solskjaer. That is my only worry. But we cannot talk about them not having the players who are up to the challenge. They have the players who are up to the challenge. Now the problem will be, how does the manager use these players? How does the manager prioritize these games? Because the manager has the Premier League, has the FA Cup that he's still chasing, and then he has now the Europa.
Yeah.
But I think the Europa and the FA may be more realistic than the Premier League.
Yes.
Bearing in mind that with the way the Manchester City team is playing and they're 10 points ahead, it may be difficult to catch them.
Yeah.
So I think it will depend on how the manager rotates his squad and how the kind of players he sends on to play.
Well, and then another team that failed to make it on to this last 16 of the Europa League has got to be Leicester City, and it could have been a very good matchup between Rangers and Leicester.
Yeah.
Right, it's going to be Slavia Prague playing against Rangers, but Rangers also are in a good run of form back home.
Yeah, actually, I was looking at their stats. They played over 30 games in the Scottish Premier League, and they've scored over 78 goals. They've only conceded 9. Yeah. And for Steven Gerrard, he played his 1,000 match as a coach there, and the winning record there is so good because they're actually going to at least oust Celtic from the 10 in a row that they would have won in the Scottish Premier League. But actually looking at their European run, they've been on a good run. They're actually unbeaten from the group stages to where they've been right now. It's been a good job. The likes of Joel Aribo, Kemar Roof, they're playing an incredible game in there. But again, talking about Leicester City, it was actually yesterday that I looked at my Facebook and realized that it's been 2 years since Brendan Rodgers took over Leicester City. And to think of the job he's done, really, he's not got past the quarterfinals of the European Cup. So that was another slap in the face. And for Slavia Praha, they were really excited about that performance. And I remember them actually video linking one of the West Ham players in Thomas Juchek after the game because he was a former Slavia Praha player. And another guy who really impressed me from that match has to be Abdallah Sima, the 17-year-old from Senegal. He did a very incredible job in there scoring the goal. But again, you'll question the mentality and the squad selection by Brendan Rodgers. He took out Harvey Barnes from the team, and that clearly affected them. And not having Maddison, not having Barnes in the team, they really didn't look good.
Well, it was going to be look bad for Leicester City, but now it gives them a chance to have a good run when it comes to the Premier League, because now they are not going to be in European competition on Thursday.
Yeah. That will give them more resting days and more recovery for the players. And maybe it will give them a better chance of finishing in the top 4 in the Premier League. Not say winning the Premier League because that will be a tall order, but finishing in the top 4 to guarantee Champions League spot next season. Yeah. And while we are talking about that, we also saw Napoli being knocked out by
Granada.
Yeah. And I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
And that tells you a lot about the game of football today. And if you look at the game of football today, you never know without the fans in the field, without the home advantage, most of the big teams are being affected.
And actually even Leverkusen, they were knocked out by a Swedish team, not a Swedish, but a Switzerland team in Young Boys.
Young
On an
Boys.
aggregate score of 6-3.
6-3.
Imagine that,
I remember Young Boys also coming back. I think they played Manchester some time back. They played Manchester, and they'll be going to be playing Ajax. Ajax were just the other day, they were semi-finalists in the Champions League, and now they are back in the Europa League, and they'll be playing Young Boys. And then we've got Dynamo Kiev also will be playing Villarreal. AC Roma is also there with Shakhtar Donetsk.
That's a tough game. That's one of the toughest games. That's a tough game.
And then Olympiacos now playing Arsenal.
Arsenal who sneaked into it anyway. My fans may throw stones at me, but I think Benfica just bungled it. They had every chance to knock Arsenal out, and they just didn't have the composure to hold it until the last minute. And eventually Arsenal sneaked in. But we have to give it to Arsenal and Arteta. He's brought in some young, exciting talents.
I was watching Premier League the other day, and they had an interview with David Seaman. And they said that game against Benfica was going to put a lot of question marks on Arteta, on if he's worthy to lead Arsenal. But one thing that has come out is that he's performing very well in the Europa League, but the Premier League has seemed to be hard for him to crack.
You know, I listened to him talking about that match against Benfica, and you know that's the only clearest path they have to Europe, because they've now lost the FA Cup, and looking at them at 11, they actually have a long way to get back into the top 4. And so this was going to be a must-win match, and that's why you saw all the celebrations coming in after the final whistle in that game. But again, talking about the Arsenal team that has been playing in the Europa League, you really have to credit the young lads in there like Bukayo Saka, who's now carrying that team. I said it last show here that Bukayo Saka is the Bruno Fernandes to Arsenal, because he's been carrying them all along. Kieran Tierney got an impressive goal in that game. And just let me go back again to talk about Ajax, who are actually a surprise team and maybe could even go all the way, you never know. I guess they were in a bit of a transition after losing all those players they lost, the likes of Hakim Ziyech, the Donny van der Beeks and the Delites, all those guys. And right now they actually discovered the art of bringing in some experienced players into the team. We've seen that with David Klaassen, who joined in from Werder Bremen. We also saw it with bringing Dali Blind to the team. And now they've got Sebastian Haller, who's actually not even playing in the Europa League, but he's doing an incredible job in the league. So Ajax is going to be one of the teams to watch going forward.
And then I saw you online, you wrote that rivalry aside, Bukayo Saka is a good player. What impresses you with that?
He's a good kid. He's a good kid who has one wonderful left foot, and he has the composure to do things that you'll expect from an experienced player. So if he can maintain that discipline, he will achieve a lot of, he will go far. Because again, you see, he's being thrown into the deep end most of the time. He's saving Arsenal so much, and as he said, you find that now Arsenal are relying on him. And when you are relying on an 18-year-old, when he's not in a 19-year-old, you're worried. That tells you how good that kid is. And if he can maintain the composure and maintain the discipline, he may go ahead and he's in the same class with the Phil Foden, the likes of Greenwood. You see, those are exciting talents coming up.
The next thing,
actually they booked a ticket.
Yes. The problem with such kind of kids is that when it gets into their head,
the way they did in the Euro.
And then there's Smith Rowe. Another good kid, and you see, and that's what is really helping Arsenal at this particular moment.
Finally, you've got to talk about one coach who is also. When he was asked if there is a crisis at Spurs, he said, "What crisis? There's no crisis here. We are very strong in everything that we are doing." Tottenham also will be playing Dynamo Zagreb in the Europa round of 16. And also, that's the path he has for Champions League football.
Yeah, and it was a good draw, really, to get Dynamo Zagreb after playing Wolfsberger. I think it's called Wolfsberger in there, Ben. It was a good performance from the lads. Looking at Dele Alli, he got his opportunity and he had a very good bicycle kick. I guess he was learning from Olivier Giroud from the previous night. And looking at the other guys that have really stepped up, You're looking at guys like Musa Sissoko, who's now stepped up a little bit, Lucas Moura. Carlos Vinicius, every time he's called upon in these games, he actually comes up with a goal. And so for Spurs, yes, you might not rule them out of this championship because, of course, you know, Jose Mourinho is a man who is a serial winner, and of course he goes for these big championships. And thinking that that is going to be the only route to European football, I believe he's going to take it seriously, and they might go all the way.
Wow, what do you make of them in Europe?
They have the chances because they have a manager who knows how to win those cups. We have a manager who knows how to study the enemy. Remember, he's already in one final.
Yeah,
he's supposed to play Man City in the next final. So they have an experienced manager. The main problem this season has been the fringe players have not stepped up. The Gareth Bale comes up one game, does wonderful, another game he's off. And when they lose Harry Kane, there's over-reliance on Harry Kane and Jung-Sung. This Son, a lot of it. So when their form goes down, the team struggles. They lack depth because the French players are not up to the challenge. And that's why he's saying, he said that the problems that are there are not football related. They're not football related. And there's no crisis. But I believe him and Klopp, they're in trouble.
Actually, another thing you've seen from Spurs is that when they're playing these European Cup games, they actually bring some very good form of football. They are attacking, but when you come back to the Premier League, they're playing some defensive football, and that's where the fans actually come in and say that Mourinho should be gone. We can't be playing negative football as they are.
Yeah, a big one there for them. So the road to Gdansk in Poland, we've got Ajax playing Young Boys, and then Dynamo Kiev will be playing Villarreal. AC Roma will be playing Shakhtar Donetsk, and then Olympiacos playing home to Arsenal. Dynamo Zagreb will be welcoming Tottenham on the first leg. And then the big one there that will be starting at Old Trafford will be Manchester United versus AC Milan, and then Slavia Praga versus Rangers, and then Granada versus Molde. So the story goes that when Manchester United and AC Milan, I just reading the other day, and it came out about Park Ju-sung in that game between Manchester United and AC Milan, and Paul Scholes says that his work was only to deal with Pirlo. Do you remember that game?
I remember that game, and I think tactically Alex Ferguson was brilliant. Was brilliant because at that particular moment Pirlo was on top of his game, and if there's one man who can at that particular moment who can mark you was Jung-Sung Park. He was the unsung hero. And I remember Rooney saying that today kids may not know about Jung-Sung Park, but he was so crucial to the Manchester United team that you couldn't even believe it. And I remember Ferguson saying that one of his regrets was leaving him out of the final that they eventually won. Jung-Sung Park outplayed Pirlo because he just stayed with Pirlo. And Pirlo did nothing. I looked at the stats of the game. Actually, Pirlo is known to be making more than 100 passes, forward passes. He was not able to make 50. And most of them were backwards. Back passes.
That was just a nostalgic feel of this clash between Manchester United and AC Milan. That game actually happened 12 or 13 years ago today, as we are going to head on to the Europa League final. Let's take a very short break here. We'll be enjoying some of the tries by Colin Sinjera, considering that the Shujaa are in Spain for the Madrid Sevens, the second leg. The Kenya Cup is also kicking off this afternoon with some of the matches. The league has returned onto a round-robin format for the next 14 match days of the Kenya Cup. Some of the major mainstays in the Kenya Rugby Cup will not be playing there. The likes of Nondes, Impala and Mwamba will not be gracing this time Kenya Cup, but we've got also some exciting matches that will be coming your way this afternoon. We've got a double header at the Nakuru Athletic Club. We'll be informing you on all that when we come back here on the touchline.